What's up, everyone? This is Alexis Gallardo. Thanks for tuning in to this week's podcast. Today we have another special guest in the building, or should I say in her building, Melissa Sacco. She's a Long Island and New York City-based interior designer celebrating 13 years in the business in November. Girl, what? Yes, girlfriend! Or as her Instagram bio likes to say, she's a lifelong designer creating custom interiors that are elegant, unpretentious, and 100% unique. You guessed it. Melissa Sacco. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So excited.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
So first off, congrats on celebrating 13 years in the business.
Thank you.
That is
Thank
incredible.
you.
How does it feel to be 13 years in?
Feels great.
Yeah.
It feels awesome. It's a huge accomplishment, especially with all the changes in the world that I've experienced over the course of 13 years. But as a business owner, we've got to pivot and just adjust to whatever changes are needed.
How was the industry when you first got into it? What do you remember the year when you first got into it?
2010. 2010, my daughter was 3 months old.
Oh my God.
Don't ask what I was thinking. Started a business as a new mom.
Yeah. There must have been such a big revolution with interior design since then.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, there was definitely a lot of technology back then, but nowhere near like where we're at right now. And people didn't have access to so many product and stuff online. So the industry was very different. I think people respected that one-on-one personal service more back then than they do now, because it's just everything is at your fingertips.
Right.
So you've got to really work hard as a designer today to, provide people with more, an experience and certain, even more service than ever. So
that's so interesting. Is interior design, in your opinion, do you think it's functionality versus aesthetics, or is it aesthetics first? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Functionality first.
Ooh. Yeah. Oh, interesting. I feel like someone like myself that doesn't know anything about interior design, I would think it's aesthetics because I'm like, looking at all the Pinterest stuff, like I feel like it's aesthetically pleasing, but you're saying functionality.
Functionality is always first. I mean, you want the client to feel comfortable in their home, but the way they feel comfortable is making sure that the layout works for their family and their lifestyle, right? Scale is very important, and space planning. And then naturally making it look beautiful and stimulating the five senses is always a big deal.
That is really interesting. I actually never thought of it that way. Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. So take me back. Like, what inspired you to get into interior design? Like, was this always in the plans, or did it fall on your lap? Like, how did that start?
It's a great question. I grew up in a very large family. I'm one of 5 kids, middle child. Yes, I have middle child syndrome. We grew up in a very small home. I shared a room with 3 other people, my 3 sisters, and then my brother, the prince of the family, had his own room. And I think as a young kid, I always wanted, because we didn't have a large home, I would always kind of push my mom, like, to use the largest room in our home. We're an Italian family. The largest room in our home was like, don't touch, don't walk in that home type of thing, or that room, I should say. And I would always kind of push her, like, why are we not utilizing the biggest room in our home? It doesn't make sense. And I was always into construction. My dad worked 3 jobs, and when we needed a room to be redone, he would try to do it on his free time, so it would take forever. And I would be the one out of the 5 kids to kind of be interested and want to help him. And I think what really pushed me to like go into this business is the fact that I truly have a passion to help people. And I think it's super important, especially with what's going on in the world right now, for people to feel comfortable in their home. And when they get home from, say, work or a long day, to walk through their front door and be able to just let their shoulders down and feel comfortable in their space. So, I mean, really my passion for helping people has kind of led me into this industry for sure.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I've actually never thought of it that way, like comfortability and just feeling safe in your home and functionality. That's so interesting.
Yes.
That's so interesting. Because you see, like in these big houses, there's so many like empty rooms that aren't used and people don't really live in them, you know what I mean? And so you're turning this space into something that's usable and that you can spend time in and feel at peace in.
Yeah. And I feel like I would say probably in the last 10 to 15 years, people really changed their perception on their home, as far as like back years ago, people would have formal living rooms, formal dining rooms.
Yeah.
Today we are utilizing, my goal is always to utilize every square inch of people's homes. You're making an investment. This is the space that you live in. You're paying a mortgage and taxes on your home. You should utilize it.
Don't even get me started. I used to be a real estate agent, so like housing prices like are astronomical here in Long Island. Taxes are crazy here. So I can definitely relate with that. That's crazy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, and I was always interested. I always had like an interest in seeing a space come together and like seeing what its fullest potential could be. And like the challenge was always like, how do we get to that point?
Right.
You know, and I'm always up for a good challenge.
Yeah.
Always.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So you helped in that aspect, and then when did you start growing your own business? Like when did it go from that to having your own business?
So I worked in a carpet store many years ago, just as like a part-time, working in the office doing administrative work, and I kind of got bored behind the desk, and I would just follow my boss around, and I just loved the interaction with clients and being able to help them.
Right.
They were struggling. They had they had a challenge.
Right.
What carpet am I picking out? What paint color? And I met this amazing designer in the showroom. I worked with her a lot, and she kind of was like, "What are you doing? Like, you've got like natural talent here." And I was like, "Really?" And so at the time, I was getting my liberal arts degree, and then I went and I applied for a really amazing school that is really known. It's an accredited architectural school. Had no idea what I was getting myself into. I just thought it was going to be like, pick some paint colors and fabrics. And it was a huge shock to me, like what the school was about.
Yeah.
And I went to school, and then while I was a student and working at the carpet store, I got offered an internship for a huge builder on Long Island. And I did really great there. I learned a lot. And then before I got my degree, I was offered a full-time interior design position. And that is where I learned so much. I helped homeowners, 25 homeowners in 10 months.
Oh my God.
With selecting all of their hard surfaces. And then unfortunately the market crashed and I was laid off. And the cabinet supplier for the builder for all of his homes found out that they were laying me off and immediately offered me a position. And from there I just, I'm going to be completely transparent right now. I jumped from job to job because in my mind I'm like, as an interior designer, there is so much that you need to know. I mean, there's lighting design, furniture, there's space planning. So my dad, old school Italian guy, like, why do you keep leaving jobs? Like, you don't do that.
Right.
Like, that's not, that doesn't fly with my parents. You stick it out, you stay at a job unless you get it, until you get a new job. And I just jumped from job to job and had so many amazing opportunities at such a young age. I learned so much, and then finally I had to make the decision. I started getting some side work, and I couldn't manage going to a full-time job and attending to my clients. So I took the plunge, and I started my business. And looking back to what I know now, back then I really I knew a lot because I worked for that builder, and I learned by making a lot of mistakes on the job site. My boss literally just threw me into the wolves and was like, it's all you, And so
it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah, but I learned it's an opportunity that most people don't get. And I would say I was probably because of that one job, I probably was 10 years ahead of people in my industry because of the amount that I learned in such a short time.
Wow.
And yeah.
Based off the experiences that you've had, you're like 10 years ahead of everyone else. That's incredible. So what were like some of your biggest challenges going into this space, being thrown into this space? What were some of the
my job?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing was I was very young. And
how old were you at the time?
I was 20, it was about 20, 21.
Oh my God, you were young. You were
Yeah.
a baby.
Yeah, and I was young, and people were spending back then close to $1 million on a home before they even upgraded their finishes. It was a builder, so we had a design center where it was my job to set up their design appointments to make sure that we've selected their kitchen cabinetry, appliances, all their tile, and they would kind of look at me when they walked in, and it was almost like, how could you be helping me right now? Like, you're super young. Like, what knowledge could you possibly have at such a young age? And I really didn't know much. I did and I didn't. What I did know is how to talk to people and how to help people.
Right.
And I was born with, you know, a creative mind, and I knew how things worked together as far as color schemes and things like that. The rest I learned as I went.
That's so interesting.
Totally transparency there.
That's amazing. Do you think someone has to be naturally creative to be able to be successful in this industry?
That's like a few percent.
Yeah?
Yeah, there's so much more to what we do than just being able to pull color schemes and finishes together. There's just so much more.
Right.
Really understanding people and being able to, there's a lot of psychology involved. Really getting to know my clients. So I was, you know, I feel as though I was born with a gift of just understanding people very quickly and really understanding what their needs are, and how I can, you know, design so that they feel comfortable in their home. So there's a lot more that goes into it. As far as, you know, to go back to the question, you know, getting to know or understanding people, their lifestyle, their family life. The other thing is there's a whole nother aspect to what I do every day, which is the business end of it, right? There's so much behind the scenes. There's so many challenges every day, which keeps me so motivated. There's challenges behind the scenes. There's a ton of coordinating trades, understanding as a designer, like what needs to happen before this can happen. And tons of hurdles. But and then, you know, the space planning and knowing the proportion of things and the scale is tremendous. So you could be amazing at putting fabrics together, but if you don't understand scale, proportion, you know, it's totally irrelevant.
Right.
You know?
What do you think are some of the biggest challenges you face in the design process? Like, if you had to name like top 3.
Design process?
Yeah, or just like, or with clients, or with anything really, like relating to what you do.
Well, speaking for today, currently, definitely product not being available. So if I put a presentation together for you and you're like, okay, it's a go, and now we are going to place your orders, the product availability changes. Could be minutes, hours. So now I've got to go back to the client and explain to them, like, hey, listen, that sofa you wanted that we told you was 8 weeks is I either have to, you know, it could be discontinued, or maybe the fabric is on back order. So now the 8 weeks is now 12 or 24 weeks. We've had things take, you know, that's a huge challenge.
Wow.
The other challenge is really coordinating all of the trades. So I am really keen on helping the client understand before we get started that we like to have your product, all of your products. So let's just say, for argument's sake, it's a bathroom reno. We want to be sure that all of your material is ordered and on site prior to demoing your bathroom. So that is a challenge in itself. And then once we are ready to get started, making sure that all of the trades, so we as designers are responsible for coordinating so many people, and it kind of always falls back on us. Like, what do you mean the paper installer can't come? Right. Well, if the paper installer can't come for another 3 weeks, then our railings can't go up, and if our railings aren't up, it's a safety hazard. We can't, and it just.
So there's a lot of people working behind the scenes with this. It's not just you. So how many people are working behind the scenes as well?
Besides, so I have a team of my own, which there are, including myself, there are 4 of us in my office. Oh, wow. And then we've got general contractors, we've got electricians, plumbers. Oh my god. There's paper hangers, painters. Oh my god. Faux painters. There's so many people. And depending on the nature of the project, custom cabinet makers. Right. There are carpenters that are just there to do, let's say, crown molding. Right. So there's so many people that we have to rely on, and we really try our hardest every day to make sure that the communication is always open. And if one little change happens, and this is something that clients don't understand, it's like, to them, it's like, what's the big deal? I'm just changing, I decided that I wanted to move this from here to there, but what they don't realize is it affects so many things behind the wall. It could affect something behind the wall that they're not aware of, and now we've got to go out to the trades immediately and be like, hey, listen, I know you were supposed to install that faucet today, but the client just decided that they want, I don't know. It's, that is huge. So I would say, as crazy as this is going to sound, I would say that we design 20% of the time. The rest of the time it's business and management. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And then I would say the third biggest challenge in my industry at the moment is quality control. Oh my. Okay. Yeah, quality control. Another area of my business where we're depending on so many people, right? Yeah. So we order a custom sofa or a table from a manufacturer. It could be somewhere down south or out west or out of the country. Oh my goodness. And so now, I think since COVID, unfortunately, I think that people are still short-staffed. I think people are inundated still on some level. And so the quality control naturally has gone down. And then your piece of furniture is being handled so many times before it gets to the end user, who is the client. And then, shipping company, you have to rely on a shipping company that they're going to handle it with care. And then it goes to our warehouse. And then from our warehouse, it's going into your home.
How do you find the people, like the contractors and the builders, and like, how do you find people that you can trust? Like, are they already there? Do you have to go out and look for them?
By the way, I love that you asked that question because it is so important for clients to understand. That is such a big part of why it's super important to have an interior designer, because it has taken me years, many years, not months, years,
I believe it,
to put together a team of people. And we don't have one contractor that we work with naturally, because there's a contractor, we place the proper contractor on the job based on the location, based on the style of the project, the scope of the project. So building relationships with the trades is huge. That's a even bigger part of what we do. So I've now done all of the work so that when my client is ready to hire me, they know that I'm only going to have the best people in their home that are going to be professional, that are going to understand, that are going to communicate, that understand that the communication is key. And then that's huge. I'm so happy you said that.
Yeah, because I can totally relate with that. Because when I was a real estate agent, people come to realtors they also don't realize we have access to brokers, we have access to mortgage people, to lawyers, to inspectors. Like, we are that one-stop shop. Like, you don't have to look for those people. We have trusted individuals that can help you. Like, that's why you hire us, you know?
And
so
another gift I think I was born with is being a matchmaker.
Yay!
Like, I know the right person for every client.
I love
depending
that.
on their style, depending on their personalities.
Oh my gosh.
Because to me, you know, it's super important as a designer to make a beautiful home for somebody.
Right.
But the experience on how to do it is what's happening right now. Mia, are you excited?
Oh,
all right.
They're enjoying this conversation.
Yeah. So, I can't.
Matchmaker.
So like understanding the client and like it may just be something as simple as, you know, this client seems to be really, you know, it might be something that I'm just trying to think of something specific. Like it may be a specific style.
Yeah.
So if the client really loves more of a modern look, I have someone that I know will be in line. They have the same vision as you, and they're so experienced in that particular style. Or someone who really specializes in kitchen and baths. I'm not going to send them a contractor who wants to do a full home build.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to send them somebody that I know that's, you know, a professional that's specializes specifically in kitchen and bath.
That's so interesting.
So it's really understanding the client and knowing the contractor really well, or any trade.
Right.
And knowing who's going to be the best person for your project.
Right.
So that in itself is a huge reason why people need to hire an interior designer.
When is your birthday? What's your sign?
September 18th. Virgo.
Oh, no, wait, yes. I'm not a Virgo. I'm a Cancer, but I love Virgos.
Virgos are the best.
Yeah.
I mean.
I feel like they make great leaders, too. Like, you know, like.
Yeah.
I saw this meme once on Instagram that was like, Virgos, they like portray themselves as perfect, but inside they're always like nitpicking themselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The tea.
Yeah.
Right?
We're perfectionists.
Yeah.
Hence why I guess I'm successful at what I do.
Yeah. No, 100%. So when you're going into a home, what do you think is like the most challenging room to design? Is it kitchen? Is it bathroom? Is it dining room? Is it a bedroom?
I would say a kitchen. Kitchens, because it's really the heart of every home. And every client that I meet with has clearly a different lifestyle and different needs. So we always start out with, what is your wish list items? Like, why are you doing this? Naturally, we're redoing a room in our home because we want like an updated look. But we really like hone in on like what works for you currently, what doesn't work for you, and then we stay laser focused on the wish list items. Like, what do you want to achieve by doing this?
Interesting.
Because, you know, you could be working, like, I've worked with clients where they've had like a galley kitchen, let's just say. One client in particular, galley kitchen, super tight space, nowhere to really prep food and things like that. So how do I lay out this space and make it more functional, all while still being, right, we want it to look beautiful, but we want it to function, and then really touch on all of the client's wish list items.
Interesting. What are some of the items that they could request for, like in the kitchen, let's just say?
Typically, I would say on average, the top 3 things are always more counter space, more storage, and a place to hide small appliances. Seems to be a huge thing.
Wow. So interesting. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, I don't want anything on my counters. Naturally, if we're dealing with a smaller space and they've got a toaster, or now everyone has an air fryer, we don't want to see this day to day, or you know, that sort of thing. Or if it's maybe a small appliance that they don't use often, but they don't, you know, they don't want it out on their counter. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
So, like, give me, like, a quick rundown of the process, like, when you're meeting a client for the first time. Like, what are some of the questions you're asking? What do those conversations look like? Or what kind of questions do they have for you? Stuff like that.
So, so we start out with, they fill out an inquiry on my website, and then we get on a call. the call really is just to kind of get a sense of like, you know, what is it that you're calling me for, you know, what the general scope of the project is. And then we set up a consultation where I meet in the client's home, and some of the questions I ask, well, I kind of have a little witchy side to me, and I just
I love that. I love that so much.
I do. I feel energy, and I hope I don't freak anybody out that listens to this, but I'm just being completely transparent.
That's gold.
I walk into someone's home, and I have the ability naturally to just sense people's energy, and I can kind of look at a space and just kind of sense like, wow, this person really needs some organization. Like, we need to get some more cabinetry.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Sorry. So I really get to know the client by asking tons of questions about their lifestyle. Like, you know, do you have a family? Do you have grandkids? Like, do your kids play sports? Do you entertain? How are you going to utilize this kitchen? Do you really cook? I have clients who have told me the first day on the phone before we even met, just so you know, the extent of our cooking is boiling a pot of water for pasta. You know, like, but then I have clients who are like not legitimate chefs, but they cook daily and they really want to make the best of their space.
Right.
So really just asking, you know, some personal questions, obviously, getting to know them, their lifestyles. I know this is like sometimes a tough question to ask people right off the bat. Sometimes I can figure it out without asking. Like, what is your profession? Because it is crazy, and this might be a whole nother topic to talk on another podcast, but it is crazy to me, like, over the course of 13 years, how I work with a lot of professionals, like doctors, lawyers, and how I can design for a doctor now with my eyes closed because it's so consistent on what they like and don't like. Well, think about it. If you're a doctor, you're in a sterile environment.
Yeah.
So their homes tend to lean more towards more glitzy, more color.
Right. Yeah. That's so true. Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So, and then, you know, so
interesting. I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Oh my
so, and for me as a designer, I mean, it's all kind of relative because as a designer, I see color, pattern, materials all day long. I like my home to be all whites and neutral, natural colors because when I come home after being stimulated with color and fabric, when I come home, I want it to just be zen and like quiet, you know?
So interesting. Oh my gosh.
This is crazy. I'm sorry.
No, you're totally fine. You're totally fine. Wow. So do you see a common trend with like what professions prefer, like what styles fit certain professions, if that makes sense? So like for doctors, you're saying it's more color and stuff. Like, do you see a pattern with other professions like entrepreneurs or lawyers or like artists or
that's a great question. I feel like people who are more creative and just love older things like antiques and things like that, like to mix more styles together. They appreciate more of the older things, bringing them in with newer things. But I would say overall, most of my clients come to me for a timeless look where it's not one specific style.
Right.
Timeless meaning that we can look at this room in 10 years from now and it still be relative. Right. So you don't walk into a space, and that's an art in itself. Yeah. As a designer, to be able to create that look where you're kind of, it's not one specific style and it's more about making a space look collected. Yeah. Where without it being so, I hate to use the word, it's not eclectic. Eclectic is like a lot of stuff, heavy, just more collected. Yeah. So like really honing in on like what objects or patterns, prints, really the client is drawn to and what really speaks to them, and then being able to kind of put it all together.
Yeah. What do you think are some examples of timeless pieces? Because I feel like that's a favorable thing. Like a lot of people kind of desire that. I feel like I know I do.
Timeless. I would say the if you're talking about furniture or case goods, really just more cleaner lines, and detail to a certain extent. Like you're not gonna,
like staying away from trends, really. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just
little pops of something maybe that is trending currently, but that might be in like a pattern on a pillow that you can easily change out in 5 or 7 years when your taste change, and the room is still going to be relative. Actually, it's funny. I was just at my parents' yesterday. We go there for Sunday dinner, and I went into my childhood bathroom on the second floor, and I was looking around, and I was like, I designed this room while I was a student, and it's still, I almost want to photograph it because I'm like, it still looks like relative. Like it doesn't look like I did it that long ago. That was back in 2000, early 2000s. I designed that bathroom.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, crazy. I actually was leaving for a trip to London when the contractors were at my parents' house helping, and I did a sketch on a paper plate.
Oh my god!
And the contractor happened to be like, he saw my drawing table out because I was still a student, and I had my drawing table set up in the room upstairs off the bathroom, and I had these beautiful drawings on there, and he goes, you do these beautiful drawings and you're giving me a drawing on a paper plate? I'm like, I'm sorry, but it all came together. It all came together. But I was just in that bathroom yesterday, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is still, you're talking 20 years ago. And it still is relative.
Right. Where do you see the trends going these days, now that we're talking about trends? Like, what are some things that people are looking for or asking for? Like upgrades, trends, the thing that most people ask for, I guess.
Definitely incorporating fireplaces into rooms, like master bedrooms. Fireplaces definitely add a ton of warmth.
Like real fire? Because I know there's like electric ones, there's ones just for aesthetics, or do you
mostly gas. Mostly gas fireplaces. And I would say more like built-in appliances that have more than one function. Because if you're limited on space and you're trying to maintain as much counter space as you can, having appliances in your kitchen that aren't just, let's say, like an oven. There's steam ovens now that do so many different things. But trending as far as like
where do you see them going, the trends now? What do you think?
A lot moodier. Like there was a whole like, I don't know how many years of this whole gray and white, which to me is sterile. You can introduce gray into your home and still be warm and inviting if you have, a designer that can put it all together for you.
There we go.
But I think more like the moodier, like deeper tones, the jewel tones mixed with, and I love, and I've always loved this. This is not really a trend to me. This is something that I keep in mind when designing any room in anyone's home for the last however many years, like introducing many different materials into one space, because that's what brings warmth. Like even looking around this room now, there's different wood tones, the floor, the table, and the different metals. So I have some golds in here, I have bronze, I have black, and that's really what makes it timeless, warm, and inviting. So to go back to your question, sorry, I went over on a tangent. Darker, moodier. I think moodier is really the up and coming. I just saw some, behind the scenes of the recent High Point Market, where that's a furniture market for interior designers in the trade. And there's a lot of dark chocolate browns and rust colors and just making it more dramatic and moody rather than this light, bright, airy.
Right.
But I'm big on incorporating that into a space without, again, being so specific and making it all about one thing.
Yeah.
So you're not always you're not going to design a whole room that's trending currently and then in, a year from now you're going to be over it.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So how's the competition in your industry? I'm like curious. Like, is there a lot of competition? Are you competing with a lot of different interior designers? Are homeowners meeting with multiple designers before?
Homeowners should meet with multiple designers because I'm a true believer in not every professional is the right professional for you, and you're not going to be the right client for every professional. Just like if you're going in for like a surgery, you're maybe going to get a second or third opinion. It's kind of the same thing. Like you're leaning on a professional. You want to make sure that your styles align, your personalities align, that sort of thing. I don't ever feel like I'm in competition with anyone. I feel like we all have something that will draw the right client to us.
Yeah.
I don't feel that I compete with other designers.
So you're really big on energy.
Yeah,
That's,
like I feel like there's so many designers out there and there's so many clients that are in need of a designer that we all specialize in something specific.
Yeah.
And, again, different personalities and different, there may be a client that is just looking for a color consultation. That's not what I do. So if someone were to call me for a color consultation, I'm happy to refer them to a colleague of mine that specializes in that.
Right.
And that's their wheelhouse, and that's what they want to do. And I refer other designers' work all the time. So I don't feel as though I'm competing.
Right.
There may be designers out there that feel that they're in competition. I don't see it that way.
Yeah. Do you think that's what separates a good designer from a great one? Is just having that kind of being able to read people and read personalities? Or what's your opinion on that? What do you think separates a good designer from a great one?
Someone who's a really good communicator, someone that doesn't take offense when a client says no to something. Like, I don't get offensive.
Yeah.
I don't get offended.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is your home. You have to love it.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm going to explain to you, like, these are your options. These are some pros and cons of this versus that. The business aspect of it is tremendous. So as a designer, in our industry across the board, challenges arise every day. Unforeseen issues come up every day in our industry. So if we're doing a renovation and we plan for this whole design in your bathroom, and then we open up the walls and we see that what we've in fact designed can't be done.
Right.
It's about how we call the client. This is a huge motto in my office. We don't ever call the client with a problem. We call them with the solution, and we don't ever become part of the problem.
Right. Oh, I love that so much.
Right? Like, I'm going to call my client and say, hey, listen, this is what happened today. These are our options.
Right.
What would you like to do?
Right.
We can go this route, and it may take a couple more days, or we can go that route. The downside to this, the upside to that, and then communication, being able to resolve a challenge or an issue that comes up without getting worked up about it.
Yeah,
It's not a big deal. Like, to me, it's a blessing to be able to be on your project, but for the client, I feel like it's a blessing that they have the opportunity to do a renovation.
Yeah.
And so let's just come up with a solution and just do it.
Right.
And that's it, and get it done.
I love that mentality. That's the best. That's the absolute best. Because no one wants to feel stressed out about a project that they want to endure, that they're excited about. They don't want to be stressed out about.
Yeah, and just leading them through an experience.
Right.
We have a process nailed down on my team, in my office, and we want them to experience. They're spending a ton of money. They're making, a big investment, making a lot of decisions. In a lot of cases, their families are misplaced. Like, they're either staying at a family member's house during construction or whatever. So at the end of the day, I want my clients to feel comfortable.
Right.
And I want them to feel confident in every decision that we make, and them know that no matter what, like, you've seen all of your options and like this is the best choice for you. And I think that's something that, you know, a lot of people in my industry forget. Like if the client doesn't like something, or if the client is upset, like, you have to understand that they're making a tremendous investment, and they're investing in you as their designer. Right. And like, they should have as amazing of an experience as possible.
Right.
So
oh my gosh.
Those are, I think, a big part of what sets me aside from other designers.
I love that so much. How long does a project take? Like, I know every customer is like different. Like,
I would say on average 8 to 12 months. Wow. On average, on our projects. You know, we do a lot of renovations, so we really like to have everything designed. So we go through a whole process, right? We have, like, you know, space planning, which is getting, you know, whether it's, again, a living room or a kitchen. Space planning is huge. We have to make sure that we're all in agreement that this is the best layout, and then that it's going to work, you know, from a construction standpoint.
Right.
And then we get into like designing and picking finishes and things like that, and then basically placing all of our orders and then waiting, you know, so it's a process.
Yeah.
And I always tell clients, like, there's an emotional timeline to what we do. It's like you get started and you're like overwhelmed, and you're going to hire your professionals, and you're interviewing interior designers and contractors. And then there's a part where the client gets super excited because they've found all of the trades, and they've got their designer, and now they're super excited. And now demo day comes and their house is being ripped apart. And it's like, it's like a continuous emotional timeline of like, and I tell clients that before we get started, like, there's going to be times where you're probably going to be so done with us and want us out of your home, but it's totally cool. Like, when we finally leave and you're living back and utilizing the spaces that we've designed for you, you're going to be so happy that you're going to forget the days that you hated us and you wanted us out of your home.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Oh my gosh. What advice would you give to people that want to break into the interior design industry, that they're starting off brand new? What advice would you give to them?
That's a great question. Be confident. Really do your work and try to get as much knowledge on every aspect of design. There's so much to know, and really learn, you know, whether it's reading, you know, but do your research on, you know, do your research. I feel like there's so much psychology behind it, like how to really talk to people and understand people. Like, but I think the biggest thing is to be confident, because you can be an amazing designer, and if you come across to a client who's making an investment in their home as someone who doesn't have the knowledge or confidence, they'll walk all over you, or you won't get the job. One or the other. Either they'll take full advantage of you, and the other thing is too, like, when you walk onto a job site and there's contractors and trades, like, if you don't know what you're talking about, you're gonna get walked all over.
Right.
You need to understand, like, what's happening.
Right. Do you think for someone that's new, do you think they have to go through that phase in order to get better and to be a better designer? Or do you think, like, there's ways around it where you don't have to not know, and like, you know what I mean? Or you gonna have to go through that?
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of education behind work experience, being on job sites and understanding how things come together, and then there has to be a respect for other trades. Like, I'm not in competition with you. We're a part of a team. That's another thing. Like, I overhear the way some trades or designers have spoken to trades, and I'm just like, why? Like, we're on a team. We're working together for the same reason. Ultimate goal is to complete the project, make it the best that we can make it and make the client happy.
Right.
Why are we arguing?
Right. That's such a good mentality to think of it as we're all a team.
Yeah.
We're all on the same.
I'm not and just not to be intimidated.
Right.
If you don't know something, another piece of advice, like as a baby designer, like if you're looking to get started and you're on a job and you don't know something, either go find the answer, or be okay with asking.
Right.
Hey, I've never done this before. I still do it. There are things, and I'll tell a client, I'm not an AV person. I don't do audiovisual.
Right.
You have a question pertaining to your TV, let me find out and I'll get back to you.
Right.
Or I'm going to call a professional that this is their wheelhouse, and I will set you up with them and we'll get the answers.
Right. I think
you know,
that's true
don't try to be someone that you're not.
Yeah.
Like, just be who you are, be honest, and communicate.
Right. I think that's true confidence at the end of the day. I feel like the person that's not confident won't ask those questions. They'll pretend to be confident, like, oh, you know.
And then you won't be respected on the job,
right, yeah,
you know?
because people can sense that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. What do you think are some like common misconceptions about interior design that you hear from people?
Common misconceptions. That we just put fabrics together.
Right.
We do not do that.
Yeah.
I can assure everyone that is like, we're designing 20% of the time.
Right.
There is so much behind the scenes. There's so much coordinating and ordering, and you know, if a problem arises and a piece comes in damaged, we're doing that for you. So that's one huge misconception, that all we do is like fluff pillows and put fabrics together. It's so not it.
Oh my God.
So far from what we do.
Right.
And then the other misconception is, this is a huge one. This is huge. That because we're designers and we get trade pricing, we should give that pricing to our clients. And it's like, what? Why? This is a business.
Right.
Like, this is not a hobby for me. This is my career. This is like what I live and breathe every day. Like, and you know, you wouldn't walk into, let's say, a restaurant or a retail store and ask the owner to give you like that shirt that you purchased. Would you ask the owner of a retail store, like, what did you pay for that? Like, I want to pay what you paid.
No, never.
That, as a business owner, we work really hard to build relationships and to, you know, we pay our bills on time, and we build relationships that can take years to build up, you know, a rapport with a manufacturer of furniture. I don't feel that my client is privy to know what I paid for something. Like, I don't understand why, and unfortunately there are designers out there that still disclose that information. And it's like, why?
Sometimes pricing isn't always tangible. Sometimes it's about the customer relation, and it's about problem solving, and it's stuff like that.
The best example I always think about, like, is when you go into a steakhouse, right? You could go out and you could buy a steak yourself from the supermarket or even your local butcher. You can put it on the stove and you could cook it yourself, and it probably will cost you nothing, right? You go to a steakhouse and you're paying easily $400 for dinner, maybe for two people, maybe more at this point. So to me, it's like, it's the ambiance, it's the service that the two of you are sitting down, or maybe there's a group of people sitting down and being catered on. Like, you're like, someone's coming over and taking your drink order, and then there's a chef who has prepared this steak for God only knows how long, and now has cooked it to your liking, and has brought it to you at a table. Like, there's a whole experience, a service, there's a chef. Like, why do people not ask a restaurant owner, like, to give them the price of the steak, like the price that they paid for the steak, but they feel it's okay to ask me for the cost on a piece of furniture? It's just like, why? Like, you're paying for a whole experience, you're paying for expertise, you're paying for A lot. There's a lot.
Yeah, saves you time, convenience, all that.
Yeah.
100%. Oh my God, that's so good. This has been such an interesting conversation. I would have never known what it's like living.
There's a lot that people don't realize, unfortunately, about what we do.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. What advice would you give if you had to go back and talk to yourself when you first started in 2010?
2010.
2010. What advice would you give to 2010 Melissa as your future self?
Wow. Wow. Mm-hmm. That's a tough question.
Yeah, we're going deep, girl.
Yeah, we are. What? Wow. I'm stumped right now.
It's okay.
What advice would I give to myself back then? Wow. It would have been okay to say no to clients. Like I was so hungry to learn and to work and to, and I let people walk all over me in the beginning, and I kind of just was like, yeah, I'll do that. But it's all good. I feel like I try not to go back because it holds you back from going forward, right? But if I had to answer, like learning how to say no,
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, this has been such an amazing conversation, Melissa.
Yes, that was so much fun.
You absolutely killed it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Tell people how they can get in contact with you.
Best way to contact me is my website, melissasaccointeriors.com, and you can hit the Contact Us tab at the top and fill out an inquiry so we can set up a discovery call, or my Instagram page, which is Melissa Sacco Interiors. Hope to talk to you guys soon.